Outstanding. It's a word synonymous with excellence within the education sector. A standard many strive, and one that represents commitment, care, and a relentless pursuit of doing things the right way. With that in mind, welcome to my new podcast, Outstanding Voices. My goal, well, that's to reach as many people striving for excellence in the skills and apprenticeship space as possible. We'll do that by bringing those who truly are experienced within excellence to the table. We can elevate others to be outstanding in their own right. I enjoy being uncomfortable, and this project has brought me challenges I've not even considered. But I'll learn along the way, just like I hope you will. While this may not be the most polished podcast, I hope you'll listen to or watch, and I hope you will still enjoy it. As they say, done is better than perfection. Before we begin, I would like to mention that all of these episodes of Outstanding Voices are proudly supported by LT Selection, a specialist provider of recruitment of staff for the skills and apprenticeship space. We believe that every person we connect with training providers and colleges will have a positive impact on somebody else's life as they contribute towards the skills and apprenticeship space. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome and introduce my first guest. That's Victoria Hart, Managing Director of Axia Training Solutions. Victoria led Axia to an outstanding inspection last summer. Axia started out as a leading training provider in the ceramics industry and today delivers an array of curriculums, including lean manufacturing, improvement technician, and AI for business. This conversation was recorded at the end of January 2026. Now let's see what an outstanding training provider truly looks like. What I'm keen on doing is bringing experts in the room, those leaders in apprenticeships and further education as a whole, to the table to be able to put a spotlight on the best practices that are happening at the moment, but also, more importantly, spreading the word on how everybody has got to be able to be an outstanding provider. And we have got you involved, Victoria, to be able to give your version of events on how to become an outstanding provider of apprenticeships.
Yes, so we had an Ofsted inspection under the EAF framework, and that was July 2025. It still feels quite recent, to be fair. We've been around now for about 27 years, and obviously I came to Axia, I've been there now 3 years, so I'm in the sort of latter stages of that. It was formed initially to support the needs of the local ceramics industry, the predominantly tableware manufacturers in Stoke-on-Trent. And manufacturing and coal mining ceramics in Stoke-on-Trent has always been historically a very big area. And then obviously throughout the 90s and the early 80s, that kind of landscape was changing and being reshaped. So I think initially Axia's mission was to support those ceramics industries and upskill staff. And I think we've continued to do that. We do work with the ceramics industry very closely, but we've also digressed as well. That's where the leadership and management has come from. As we've delivered leadership and management in ceramics, we've stepped out of that and broadened that offer, if you like, to wider manufacturing. And so I think it's interesting, really, when you think about the evolution of a business. I would imagine maybe the business owner 27 years ago wouldn't have the curriculum offer that Axia's got at this moment in time, because I think you follow, don't you, the trends in what's going on in local area, part of our landscape now. So it's, you, as a business, you start out doing one thing, but I think you've got to remain open to, you've also got to know what you do well. And Axia's always traditionally tried to do that really well. We were very good at that. So let's and build on from there. And I think that's the evolution of Axia really over its time. So we've still got that manufacturing footprint. We've still got the maths and English that 1999, do I want to say? We've still got adults there that need confidence and upskilling in English, without a doubt. So we still work with those learners. So yes, I think that was the start or the inception really of. And it's interesting because I was born and bred in Staffordshire, and I've worked out of the area, but I have to say I really do love being in Staffordshire, both as a resident and also supporting our local businesses, because if we upskill people in our local, of course, that benefits our own economy in some microcosmic kind of way, really.
It's fantastic that you're still contributing to part of what I perceive to be British identity, which is manufacturing. And I think it's slowly being exported, which is a massive shame. But you know what your core product is, and you always have. And who knew 27 years ago that AI would be a part of what you're doing today? But as you've rightly indicated, that things do move on. You've stuck to your roots, and you've enhanced the services. So aside from the manufacturing ones, you obviously do ODM, you do improvement practitioner, you deliver lean manufacturing as well. Is that right?
We do, yes, and that's a step on point usually for young people into the manufacturing sector. We work with ceramics organisations, we work with some traditional manufacturing production line organisations as well, and they take on manufacturing apprentices and a mix of small and large businesses. I think, yeah, a diverse base there for manufacturing, but a nice first step for young people to jump in on. It's not all about engineering. There's a core of job roles around manufacturing. And certainly employers will always report to you about skills gaps in those areas, without a doubt.
Talk to me about your recent nomination. What was that for?
Oh, that was for Businesswoman of the Year, and that was through an organisation called Watty Woman of the Year, which I believe is about 46 years old, I think, and started out in the Shires as a sort of a female networking group, and has obviously grown since then. I have to say, Neil, I was quite not upset, that's not the right word, but I was really out of my comfort zone, I think, with that, because I'm quite down to earth, and I've never really wanted to be someone who wants to draw a lot of attention to myself. So I'm not naturally comfortable in the limelight. I've always been a leader that pushes everybody from behind, I think, rather than being, maybe I'm a bit of both, but yeah, maybe not so comfortable with the sort of showcasing side, I think.
And how did it come about? How did you get nominated?
So we introduced a senior leader apprenticeship program, and we bravely ring fenced it for females, not because we wanted to be exclusive, but I think what we wanted to do with the female leadership program was to encourage more females to take on senior leader roles. Let's see more females at board level. So it was wanting to be part of that, really. And obviously that was also something that we were really pleased with. And I'm really proud. I'm really proud of the senior leadership program that we developed. We put together an incredible team of women. I'm going to say this, Axia are an incredible team. The team I work with, I'm very privileged to work with them. They trusted me from the offset. We had some challenging conversations, but they trusted me, and that paid off, I think. And so the respect I have for them, I think, is, I hope they feel the same. I don't know, I've never really asked them, I don't suppose. But yeah, we're all pleased with the outcomes. But the senior leadership team, we put a team together of women supporting other women. And yeah, that's been an incredible success, really. I think we're really proud of that programme.
Tell me when your Ofsted inspection was and how that went.
Yes, so we had an Ofsted inspection on that was July 2025. We got an outstanding across every element of the provision, so all elements, and we deliver primarily apprenticeships. That's our sort of our field, if you like. But across all of those elements, the leadership and management behaviours, personal development, the quality of education, we were graded outstanding. There's a few things I am actually quite proud of within that. And there were a couple of things in the inspection report, if anybody has the desire to read that. But the inspection report for me, there are a few things. The first of which is that we have expertise in the teachers and trainers. And really, that's a fundamental, isn't it? But really pleased to see that was highly recognised by the inspection team. I think the other side for me was the fact that they saw that from an inclusion perspective, and obviously we weren't under the new framework at this point, but the inclusion element is that regardless of background, age, gender, ability, all learners were achieving well. And that comes down to that individualized approach with every learner. And then the third element was around recognising that the approach we'd got to quality assurance and quality, I think in the Ofsted report, it defines it as forensic. And I think those are the three ingredients, if I'm honest, that really came out in the inspection report, but also were critical in achieving that outcome for us. You don't just pull an Ofsted inspection out of the bag on the day. It takes years of work and focus really on your provision with your staff and your employers and your learners. I'm a big believer. In fact, I do believe fundamentally that it's about doing the right thing by learners and employers. If you do that, the Ofsted falls into place. It's a rubber stamping. And I think that's the critical point, is what's your position with regards to your provision. It's so important that you don't just think, look, with 2 days prep, 3 days prep, that you're suddenly going to put all the systems in place, or you're suddenly going to have learners saying positive things about you if they've not had the best of experience, or if you as a leader don't know the experience that they've had.
You was quite ahead of the curve, really, weren't you, with this inclusion? And obviously, that's become a big theme under the new inspection framework. Was that something that you preempted, or did you feel like that's something that you was already working on?
I think, I don't know, Neil, whether it's because I've been in education such a long time. I've been a leader in education now for some 25 years, 26th year. And things come around full circle, and that's certainly the case. I think that experience helped me to steer Axia to where it needed to be. But I also think that every learner that passes our door as a provider, I want them to have a very good experience, and I want them to be supported as well as we can. I think it comes out of that ethos, our ethos and our values, if you like. The other part of it, if I'm honest, is I'm absolutely data queen. Now, I don't know how you can run a provider without being interested in data. So for me, having an eye on your data, particularly around inclusion and how well learners from a range of backgrounds or with difficulties or disabilities were doing, was absolutely key to all of that. And we've spent wherever I've worked, I've always watched that. Where are the gaps? What's the problem? What's causing that? And it's that level of data scrutiny that tells you where you need to focus, really.
In your report, it states that 91% of learners from deprived areas completed their apprenticeship compared to a national average of 49.5%. You must have felt with that sort of statistic and knowing that in advance that you almost had one hand on the outstanding trophy.
Certainly not. I think you've got to know your data, and you've got to stand there and present the data correctly. I think you cannot ever walk into an inspection thinking we've got this in the bag, because you really don't have anything in the bag. But I think it's about showcasing your organization to a certain extent. And that's why self-assessment's so important. When I write a self-assessment report for the year, what I'm doing is I'm taking on, great, where is all the good stuff? I'm very evidence driven. I make decisions based on evidence. And where are we not so good? And you've got to have that honest conversation with yourself first before you can even have that with an inspection team. I don't think it's ever in the bag. Was I pleased with our data? Oh God, yes, of course. Data fluctuates. One year you can be great at one thing, and the next thing, for another reason completely beyond your control. There are things beyond your control. But it's about your basic values, I think, within that really do need to come through. And you've got to go into it prepared that if the data isn't as strong as you would, you've got some rationale behind it, really, and you can explain it. It's all about knowing what's going on in your organisation as a leader, as a manager. You really got to know and care, if I'm honest. That's the bottom line.
So, would that be your number one piece of advice for anybody who's expecting the call within the next 12 months to really hone in on that data? And more specifically, when it comes to inclusion, where would you start with that? What advice would you give to other people that are preparing to implement that?
Inclusive practice doesn't happen by accident. You've got to design it, yeah. So I think you do have to do two things. You do have to be aware of your data. Now, we had a whole set of data. We set KPIs across all our data that we met as a management team and reviewed every month without fail. And we did that for a 2-year period. prior to the inspection. And we did that because that's how I like to lead and manage. I'm not micromanaging, but I want to know what the headlines are. I don't like surprises, Neil. I never have done. So I don't want to be wrong-footed at the last minute because the data suddenly has taken a nosedive or we didn't anticipate something. So no surprise leadership for me. I think the other element around inclusive practice is to make sure that you've got a system that you've designed that works for you, whatever that happens to be. It's no good use having a policy that you've got on a shelf, but nobody is using that policy or applying it, or you haven't got a system in place that supports that policy. It's what you are doing that's important. So I think that's probably, and we're seeing that, aren't we, in the first inspections that are coming out. It's really early days yet. I wouldn't want to draw any conclusion from the small number of inspections that have happened, but whenever there's a new focus in town, and there are always different focuses from Ofsted across different years, depending on themes that are coming through in inspection reports, it's important that you're aware of those as a provider and you make sure that you are the right side of that, really, in whichever capacity you need to be.
Do you prefer the new system? Do you feel like you're ready for the new system?
Yes, I think we are ready because I don't prepare for an Ofsted inspection. I prepare to make sure I've got quality provision and that learners are going to get a good experience. I started this by saying, didn't I, that Ofsted isn't, I'm not following where Ofsted are going. I'm looking at what can I do that's best for my learners and my employers. Now, I'm not being naive in that because that means that you've also got to be aware of what Ofsted are going to be looking for because it's not that simplistic as I've just said. But I think having good quality provision that you're just delivering year on, year out, it's not perfect. Perfect doesn't exist, Neil. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but what it's about is that you, as an organization, your leadership team, your trainers, they know what they do well and where things aren't going quite so well or they've gone a bit askew. You are doing something about it. So I think that's the premise of an inspection report. It's quality assurance in the sector, isn't it? That you are delivering value for money and you know yourself as an organization what you do really well and where you need to improve. And I think that kind of guides you, I think, through an inspection, which is all about that quality, whatever the framework is called, whatever the grading criteria are called, whether it's a single grade approach or it's a report card, doesn't really matter. It all distills to, are you delivering good value to these people that are coming to your organisation? And I think where we differ in the training provider land is that if we aren't delivering quality, we won't have employers. One of my drivers for quality is that we won't exist as a business because they'll go elsewhere unless they're getting and we're meeting their needs. It's about that good quality provision, really, and it's meeting a need.
And that was highlighted in the inspection. Axia offers a needs analysis for employers, the free consultations on apprenticeship levy funding, and guidance on funding streams. So, how important is it to provide that added value? I think you've summed it up there. It was a question I had for you. But in terms of added value, what do you think Axia Training do differently?
I just think we managed to articulate that as what we do really, Neil. So say for example, we have a program, an enrichment curriculum, which is not extraordinary because colleges up and down the land have enrichment activity for learners. It's different when you're in a training provider because you don't have learners coming on site to a campus. You can't enter them in sports competitions or whatever in the same way that you can if you've got them on a campus. So it's about how you do add value through additional activity that you put on for apprentices so that you develop them outside and above and beyond the curriculum. And it's also having trainers who subscribe to that view as well. There are a lot of training isn't just training, is it? You don't just walk in, train somebody and walk out of the door. If you've got learners on apprenticeships, whether you've got young apprentices or you're upskilling, the requirement of that apprenticeship is that you deliver a whole lot more and you add value in terms of careers guidance and support and so on, and you're encouraging them to be the best version of themselves. And I do think that's what it came down to for us as Axia, is that you genuinely want those apprentices to be the best they can be, as well-rounded as they can be, as aware as they can be about the wider environment. And so we have some challenges. Some of the curriculum non-core content that we have to deliver is quite substantial. There's no extra funding for that, but we have to show that we've demonstrated that. And it is getting more and more challenging. Although apprenticeship standards are reviewed, we've not had any uplift in any funding significantly across any of those that matches the rate of inflation or otherwise, have we, over the last few years? So it's getting more and more difficult. So you've got to look at how you can do it cleverly, efficiently, and effectively, really, to show that you are adding that value.
And that value doesn't necessarily begin when the learners are on programme. That value starts even way before that first initial engagement. How do you embed that and drive that into your sales and engagement team and the enrolment team in order to make sure that when they do come onto program, that they're in no doubt about what the program is and the quality of the program and the support that they're going to get next?
I guess, as every provider has, we've got marketing materials that we use to showcase and give examples of what we've done. I think the key thing for me is the messaging behind that. It's no use. We've all experienced maybe a sales team that go out and sell, and then you come in as a provider and your trainer say that they're not suitable for the apprenticeship for whatever reason. I think it's about making sure that you're all clear who the type of apprentice is that fits that program, the kind of role that they're in, and there's that discussion. I go and advocate for our business. I do believe that if you have a product that you're proud of and that you believe in, and once you've got that, you can advocate for that in business about how it will support and how it will improve or help a business to develop or be more efficient or whatever. So I think it comes back to having a quality of something that you are happy to talk about and share experience. I'm always offering employers to go and chat to other employers if they want any sort of validation from the things that we've said. For me, it's not a sales driven process. It's is it right? Is this going to meet your needs process?
And I suppose you get that. Do you do like open days and things like that for them to come in and see the product? How do you market it then? If you'll obviously have a BD team or an engagement team that go and share your products with potential clients and employers. But do you find that they come to you more often than you have to go to them?
I think when I first joined Axia, I wanted to grow the business and the breadth of employers that we work with. So if I've got that as my vision, I need to be showing people that I'm willing to go out there and do that. So I did a lot of groundwork myself there because I am trying to raise the profile of Axia, and also I want people to identify with me. I think that's important. So we do have people who look after businesses. We haven't got a sales team. We haven't got a business development team. We've got a couple of staff that work with me who are comfortable and confident to speak to employers about the products that we've got. The coaches, the trainers can speak confidently in their own businesses. So we don't have that separate sales team. And I think so far that's worked well. I've worked in organisations where they have had sales teams. I've worked in organisations where they haven't. And I just think it's finding out what works for you. I think you've got to be visible. I think you've got to be out there. I am out there constantly. And I actually quite love getting into businesses, if I'm honest, and going and seeing and understanding, going on the factory tours, going and speaking to people, understanding what's happening, what's making their business tick, where the challenges are. I've always loved that side of things. So for me, doing that and encouraging others in my team to do that, I think is important, really.
I guess it brings it all to life when you're out there in the field and you're seeing it for real and seeing how it's all delivered and taking place and the progression that the learners and students are going through, as opposed to just looking at spreadsheets and ILR data. So actually seeing it in person, I suppose, is a fundamental part of actually where you're at the moment. What do you think the biggest challenges that the sector faces at the moment?
I think uncertainty. I think let's not go backwards. We've made some huge inroads in quality terms, in employer engagement in apprenticeship terms. Constant confusion and change doesn't help anybody. When we talk to employers, we talk to them about what skills do you want? And we have that skills-based conversation rather than, oh, would you like a level 3 business admin apprentice or would you like a level 5 manager apprentice? We don't have that conversation. It's tell us what you want, tell us what your challenges are, and then you fit that around and come up with the optimum solution based on their needs. So we need that flexibility, I think, to be able to continue to do that.
And that was going to be my last question around the sector itself. If you could change one thing, what would it be?
I would like to see that I'd like to see less bureaucracy for smaller employers. I think that's been a big barrier to a lot of employers. If they are a very small organisation, they generally haven't got an HR infrastructure. It might be one or two people and they want to take an apprentice on to help them expand. So let's make it easy for them. I think the transition to the digital accounts put a lot of employers off. And if you're a man in a van and you want to take an apprentice on, the paperwork is bonkers. And so I think let's make it easier for smaller businesses to take on those younger apprentices. And let's make sure the levy pot that we've got enables larger employers to upskill in whatever area they want to upskill in. And when I speak to employers, they really do use and see that core element of upskilling in apprenticeship. So let's not lose that, because it's going to add so much value. We can't always measure it at a moment in time, but it's the impact of that, isn't it, years on.
How would you describe your own personal leadership skills?
I think I've always been the kind of person that listens to others. I may have something in my head, but I will always run that past others generally and share that and sort of sense check that I've not gone off on a bonkers angle, basically. But I think it is listening to people. Whichever sector you're in, if you're in a people-led service, such as the NHS, such as public sector, such as a school, your commodity is your people. You've got to lead them respectfully, honestly, with integrity. So I think those are the key things for me. I think it allows you then to earn respect as a leader. Leaders don't automatically get respect. I think you've got to show that you've earned it. And I think that's how I feel, I think, about it, is wanting people to trust me. I'm not going to ask people to do things that I don't want to do. Who am I? As I leave Axia normally on a Friday afternoon, I'm the person taking out the bin bags because I'm the last person in the building. So I'm making rounds of tea. I am one of the team, and I think that's important. That's who I want to be. So I think being part of that team, listening to people, knowing your own mind sometimes, I think is important, and making decisions based on evidence, what's in front of you. That's key to it, really. It's not simple. Leadership isn't easy, is it? You have to face daily challenges. I'm often the person that gets wheeled out if there's a problem. But the reward of that is seeing people in your organization grow, seeing your organization grow, and just going to bed and sleeping at night because you did the right thing by people, I think.
And do you sleep at night?
Sometimes not. Maybe because I can't get the work out of my head sometimes, but that's life, isn't it? We're all the same.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions left, but I wasn't going to do this part, but I spoke to somebody this morning in the sector, and I asked this person actually if they had a question for you. I was explaining what I've got this afternoon. I did mention that you were a director of an outstanding apprenticeship training provider. And I said, would you like to ask my guest a question? And the question was, what was it like within the organisation from getting the call up until the first day Ofsted came on site? Did you feel like everything was under control? Were the people working through the night? What was that like?
Do you know, that's a really interesting question, because for me, it's about protecting people during Ofsted inspection. What you don't want is mass panic. If we haven't got it in place by the time we get that call, we're not going to turn it around over a weekend. It's not going to happen. So what you want is rested staff. You want them to come in on the morning. We are a team, and whatever comes to us, we are going to work this through as a team. And that is what happened. That only happened, Neil, because we'd been doing the right thing prior to. The improvement plan, we kept updating that. We got all our data because we monitor it each month. Most of the records were up to date. We were doing things as we should have been doing. We didn't have to scrabble to pull it out of the bag. I think the challenge when you get the call is that panic moment. I was actually in London, and I was just about to step off the train in Euston, and I was just about to step off the train, and I looked down at my phone and it was ringing, and I thought, yeah, I know what this is. I literally just got back on the train and came straight back home. And it was about keeping the team calm. That was really important. And I think it is important because it's too much made of panicking everybody around Ofsted inspection. If you've been doing staff development, if you've been monitoring your data, if you know what the learners are saying about you, and when things aren't right, you've done something about it, broadly, you're going to be okay. There are always going to be requests for data. Sometimes the team say, "Oh, we can produce that and we can do that." And I'm like, "But we don't know what we're going to be asked for. So let's not go into producing God knows what at this moment in time. We know where we are. We've managed to supply the inspection team with everything that they need. Now, everybody, off you pop for the weekend. We'll see you on Monday or we'll see you on Tuesday." But that doesn't happen if you haven't had that approach. So I think your pre-approach and that preparation and doing the right thing is fundamental. That eases you into the inspection. And the inspectors know. They walk in through the door. They know, don't they? They've worked in our industry. This isn't an alien life form coming into your organisation. They've worked, they understand what it is like. So but I think, yeah, keeping your staff calm, being the calm person in the room is really useful. I think one thing I would recommend is around the shadow nominee. I think make sure that you've got a shadow nominee in with you in the inspections. That's invaluable. And, you know, that they take notes that you might miss because you're too busy trying to catch everything. And so shadow nominee, absolutely.
I was speaking to an Ofsted nominee last week, and they were considering their next career step. They had an Ofsted inspection about 12 months ago, and that was the outcome for that inspection was good. Since then, and I see this over and over again, the quality of provision within board meetings only gets a small percentage of time around the boardroom. Most of the questions are around sales and or business development and learner engagement, growth, etc., etc. And they rightly say that anything that you do now leaves a trail for when Ofsted come in the future, whether that's 1 year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time. And I know that this happens over and over again because I work in recruitment and I get told that when Ofsted have been, I get quality nominees knocking on my door to see if there's any other opportunities because sadly, their role isn't a priority to them anymore. What advice would you give to any training organisation that was making those decisions?
I know how hard it was for us to take Axia to Outstanding. Yeah. 2 years of hard work. Do I want to unwind any of that work? No, because I've worked the hardest I did to get that. So I want to build on that. So I think it's really important you don't suddenly start dropping stitches in the knitting because you're going to be unraveling it all again to work your way back up. And let me tell you, 4 years comes around quite quickly. And also, you can't be naive about your data. We know that the data dashboards are changing, the accountability measures are changing. So there's more scrutiny, it's more joined up. So you do have to focus on the quality, and the quality also brings you business. So it's a no-brainer for me, Neil. It really is. We are still doing the same things we did before the inspection. We've enhanced a couple of things now because we know there's a new inspection framework and we're going to be building to that over the next couple of years. But we've done all the things we would have done if we were still waiting for an inspection call because it's about being right, having the right thing for your employers and your learners. You've got to have your eye on quality. Quality and apprenticeships bites you on the backside. 3-4 years later, if you've got a long standard being delivered, and you take your eye off the ball, that's going to kill you in a couple of years' time. And that's going to be the data that Ofsted are looking at. I think you're brave if you take your eye off the ball from a quality perspective.
My last question, what question would you have for my next guest?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I think so. I guess a couple of questions for me would be, how serious are you about quality in your organisation? It concerns me that maybe quality is seen as something that's just brought in for an Ofsted inspection, because that's quite dangerous and can leave you quite exposed. We just explored that. I think One of my questions is, how do you ensure that you support your staff so that they have the best Ofsted experience they can have? And we take away this fear factor that we've got, and we enable staff to articulate and talk quite clearly about the good stuff that they've done and how they are developing their programs with an Ofsted inspector. So maybe those are my two questions, Neil.
As a wise man once said to me, Ofsted is a byproduct of the good work that you'll do. Focus on the quality, do the right thing, and Ofsted will take care of itself.
That's so very true. It's so very true. You can't be naive, and you've got to make sure that you've looked at that inspection framework and you've had a conversation with yourself about it, about how you would evidence some of those things, and is it really as good as you think it is? How do you know that it's good, bad, or indifferent? But yeah, try and do the right thing. If you try and do the right thing, then it does lead to growth. Short focus on growth alone is bust times, isn't it? It's boom or bust, really, a little bit sometimes.
Victoria, you literally are outstanding. Thank you for your outstanding contribution to the sector. Thank you for being my guest on Outstanding Voices. That brings us to the close of our first episode of Outstanding Voices. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening. I hope in some way you have something meaningful to take away from this conversation, an insight or reflection, or perhaps something that inspires you in your own personal journey towards excellence. I'm committed to producing more episodes, improving the quality of the podcast, and bringing equally important voices to the table in the future. But to do that, I need one big favour from you. Please head over to the podcast page and click subscribe. Your support will help this grow, reach as many people as possible within the skills sector, and allow those important conversations to continue. And if you would like to take part, or you know somebody within the skills sector who you think would make an outstanding guest, please get in touch. You can email me at neil.thompson@ltselection.co.uk. Thank you again for your time, your support, and for being part of Outstanding Voices. Until next time, keep striving for excellence.